Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live session. As always, so excited to be back here. And so, as you're coming on to the chat, if you want to say hello, if you want to let us know where you're visiting from, we have a really, really cool global audience. So, it's always amazing to see where people are coming from. And obviously, we love the hellos. We're here today to answer and get to all your questions. So, let's dive right in. Let's talk about the title that we created for this YouTube Live today. And there's a lot of concerns, right? We're seeing that maybe some of these big tech companies overstaffed. We're hearing about hiring freezes. We're hearing about layoffs. And the only piece I want to say is that sometimes with these big tech companies, especially, there tends to be a little bit of an overreaction. That's just, again, what I saw in my time. So I wouldn't read too much into the fact that everything's going to stop and there's not going to be any hiring. They just need to hire in general for attrition. And then there's just going to be critical roles, critical parts of the business. And with these larger companies, they're not going to stop hiring. It never happens. As long as they're in growth mode, which most of them are, they're going to keep hiring. Now, with the layoffs, the tricky part about layoffs is the industry that's going to be much more impacted is startups. Startups are going to be impacted because they're smaller. VC funding is really backing off due to inflation and just economic conditions, obviously the war conditions overseas. So for all of those reasons, there could be a lot of challenges that come in the startup space. So if you're at a smaller company, sometimes looking to the stability of those bigger companies can be really good. Again, when there's so much unknown, especially economically and because of war. So let's dive into a couple of really, really quick items. Usually on the 30s, I'm going to prompt into a few really quick items. So let's start with a discount. I've been trying to push the discount on my course during the lives. So if you use in cap the word COW, C-O-W in caps, up till 11:59 p.m. Pacific time in the U.S. today, it'll be a $100 discount off the course. Okay, and then that discount will end at the end of today. We do practice interviews. We do negotiation sessions. All of this information can be found on practiceinterviews.com. We also have a free Slack sign-up group. People are practicing with others. They're asking questions in there. That's a great platform. And then I have a free resources tab, 9 free resources for the community. So lots of good stuff. Hey, if you've never subscribed to our channel, consider subscribing today. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. As always, I don't like to spend a lot of time on the fluff. I like to get to the questions as early as possible. I will always get behind. There's always almost a 20-minute lag, and I apologize for that, but I'll answer the questions in order. No need to repeat questions. I'll get to everything. Thank you so much for being here, and let's dive in. Let's have some fun. Lastly, we're totally a positive channel, right? It doesn't mean that we won't talk about negative things, but as much as we can keep it positive, let's try to do that. Thank you. All right. Hi, welcome. Hey, Jeff, you applied for a position at GCP through referral. The recruiter forwarded your profile to the HM directly. Today, you found out that they're not proceeding with your application. You showed enthusiasm, and you want to understand where you fell short and requested a 10-minute call with the recruiter. The email conveyed your passion for Google. Okay. Think we get a call back. Time frame, this was 3 weeks or 3 weeks ago, maybe. I wouldn't expect it. I'm sure they appreciate your passion and enthusiasm, but sometimes it's just other candidates who are a better fit, and they probably, unfortunately, just don't have time to spend 10 minutes with every person who doesn't make it into the process. So I wouldn't expect it, but if you have a referrer there, my strong suggestion is that you keep trying, and good luck. 4 interviews for a PgM role with GCP last Friday. I think they went well, thanks to your guidance. How long does it usually take to hear feedback? Last Friday, okay. It varies greatly. When we look at position to position, recruiter, interviewers, if you haven't heard back, I would say by tomorrow or latest, like morning Friday, follow up. But usually I like 5 business days. If you haven't heard back, follow up. Thanks for expounding relevant content for us. You're currently applying for PgM roles in tech and wondering what a good ratio to hear back from. In the application process, Usually only about, and this is like a casting a wide net, but only about 10% of people get jobs based on applying online. So you could apply to 100 jobs and the percentage could be zero. Now, if you're coming from a big company, big competitor, you have this great experience, yeah, that might increase the likelihood of you hearing back, but strongly recommend networking to try to get in using referrals. It's usually the better path than applying. Okay, you have 8+ years of program and ops experience, but none in tech. Yeah, don't worry too much about the tech thing. I think so many people worry and get too concerned about, I want to get into Google, but I'm not coming from Meta or Amazon or Apple. I came from a relatively unknown company into Google, and that for most of us, we're coming from relatively unknowns into the known, which could be a Google or another big company. So don't worry too much about that piece. Thanks for your videos. You're still following up with HR post her initial mail of checking my profile with the HC. It was my third follow-up yesterday with no reply. Okay, so now we got to pivot, right? If we're being told that we're going to hiring committee and then we have to follow up 3 times and we don't hear back, you've got to go around your recruiter. We got to try and figure out if we can touch base with the sourcer, the recruiting coordinator, with anybody that you interviewed with. Did you connect with anybody on LinkedIn? Go around your recruiter at this point. We simply cannot wait this long. This is totally unacceptable. At the HC stage, we're not hearing back. It's not okay. You got to go around them. Keep us updated, but that's my recommendation. And continue to follow up with them along the way too. Don't bring them out of it, but you got to go around them as well. Thanks for all your help. What is a business recommendation? I'm not sure on that one. The recruiter has also asked to confirm my compensation expectations. I'm not sure on the business recommendation unless it's a referral, which means you might be giving referrers names. If you want to come back, it's going to take a little bit of time to circle back, but let me know. Compensation expectations. I'm open and negotiable for the right role, but I can't give you my comp expectations. I haven't spoken with the team. I don't know the team. I don't know the level. I don't know enough about the role right now. They push back. I don't feel comfortable talking about that yet, but we will talk about that in the future, and I'd be happy to talk about that in the future. Deflect, deflect, deflect. Remember, the recruiter, if there's been some interest and you're getting into the interview process, they don't really have the control to stop the process just because you won't give salary expectations. I mean, technically, I guess they could, but not if you're gracious and kind. If you're gracious and kind, usually they'll always respond well. Hey, Sandra. You are welcome. Okay, what's going on? I followed your tips and passed my hiring manager interview. The recruiter said he shared some really positive feedback following your interview, and you're moving on to meet the team tomorrow. Amazing. Bring that same energy, positivity, enthusiasm, excitement, practice like crazy, prep like crazy, do all the things you know you need to do to have success, and good luck. Gonna have an offer call with HR today. L4 SDE Mountain View. Any advice? Hope to get the letter soon. Yeah, if they're gonna lead, and so we talk a lot about this, and I think it's a critical item. I haven't seen any difference with my negotiation clients if they lead or you lead. Like if they drop it first or you drop it first, it doesn't seem to really matter as long as you come in with that high anchor. So when we talk about an L4 SDE in the Bay, like you got to drop a pretty high anchor. I would be anchoring in the mid to high 3s in comparison to whatever they drop on you. And whatever they drop on you is going to be, it's likely going to be in the mid to high 2s. Their initial offer is going to be pretty low, so you're going to have to anchor pretty high. But an L4 should be coming in year 1, definitely into the low 3s at a minimum. So good luck. Just accepted an offer to join Google in July. What are the chances of my offer being rescinded, layoff, considering current market conditions? Low. Very, very low. I haven't really seen any of that historically. Of course, I can't determine or predict everything, but just take a deep breath. I really wouldn't anticipate that happening. Again, I can't say 100% for sure, but I wouldn't expect it. Hi, Jeff. Hello. Yeah, absolutely, Jen. Okay, I'm currently in IC6 and you're expecting a down level since you're switching roles from Eng to TPM. Yep. What is a good compensation band for an L4, L5 TPM? Well, you wouldn't go from 6 Eng to 4 TPM. That's a two-level drop, and I actually wouldn't recommend doing that. So an L5 TPM at a Mountain View, you're making into the mid to high threes. Now remember, some of that's going to be interesting as you transition with like equity and all that stuff. You should just expect maybe a base decrease, right? And the refresher bands might not be quite as big. 15% target bonus going from 20 to L6 to L5. So those are the items to keep in mind, Sandra. I hope that helps. Great to see you. What is a good time for applying for roles, or should we wait until the situation improves? Let's not stop, right? Let's not. I don't want to be too fear-based, right? Let's dive in. Let's get engaged. Let's go through the process like nothing's happening, because all of a sudden, Amazon's going to split. We're like a couple weeks away from the Amazon split, the Google split coming in July. All of a sudden, all this money is going to flood into these stocks because people can get these stocks now at $100 or $110 or $120 or whatever that 20-to-1 split's going to be. Let's see what happens then. That's really, really close. If money starts to flood into these stocks, which I think it will, when the price point becomes much more available to a much wider audience. So I would say keep after it. Let's not slow down on our end. Any advice for front end dev who's I think that's working for Google. I'm not really sure what we're asking here, but I think that there's a lot of engineers that are really focused on the back end. So having that front end experience is great. Obviously, full stack is great too. Just make sure that you're practicing those skills with others. That's the biggest piece of advice. I hope that helps. If I didn't answer your question, come back, please. Finish virtual Google loop and waiting, non-tech role. In the meantime, there's another role at Google I'd like to apply for in case I didn't get the first role. I really don't recommend this. If we're at the end of the process, just hold off. It's not apply for other roles. It doesn't create a great vibe. It's just for connectivity purposes. Like let's not apply for other roles. Let's not try and get in front of other roles, especially when we're through the process. Let's see that part of the process through, because then maybe our recruiter will share our information with that other recruiter instead of us going through the application process. Good luck. Hi, everyone. Hello. Bay Area. It's a great spot in the world if you have the opportunity to live or work there. You are welcome. Thank you for being here. Hey, Jeff. After onsite, the HR reached out saying they have no negative review, but are not going to proceed. Any suggestions? Yeah, if the feedback overall is positive, you're going to want to try and stay in touch with that recruiter. Ask them about the cadence. Can I touch base with you once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months? You're going to want to share roles that are a like fit. So when we share roles that are a like fit, it means you share 1, maybe 2 roles. You share the link. You share bullets for why you're a fit. You share your availability. You share an updated resume. You make it as easy on your recruiter as possible if they're willing to help you. Remember, the piece that's really important to remember is that these big elite companies, right? Like good is good, but they're looking for great, and good will give you a strong likelihood of another opportunity, but it's not always enough the first time around. No discounts on the one-on-one coaching right now, just based on bandwidth and demand. But the course, use that discount code COW, C-O-W, in caps, and you'll get $100 off the course. Thanks for your amazing content. You're starting at Google next month. Whole process took over 6 months, but it paid off. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much for letting us know. Again, I love when people show up and show the gratitude. Gratitude is a great foundation for all of us to have. And I know it's a lot to come in and sit through these lives, and at least the beginning of these lives, and let us know. And it shows everybody what's possible. People are getting hired into these jobs all the time, so it is possible. Thank you and good luck. You haven't got any calls for 3 weeks in the team match for an L3 suite. Is it a good idea to try and connect with EMs on LinkedIn? What else can I do to increase my chances? Not great to go on LinkedIn. The likelihood that they respond is pretty much limited to none, just because they get so pummeled. And I wish that maybe I can't do it from a confidentiality perspective, but if I could maybe scrape out my LinkedIn to just show what hits my LinkedIn account on a daily basis, the number of spams I get, the number of requests I get to talk and all this stuff. And it's really hard to stay on top of it and follow up with everybody. And EMs, they're going to get 10x what I get. So just stay in touch with the recruiter, right? Do whatever you can to just touch base with them. And that's really all you can do. This team match stage is super funky and really hard. So just hang in there. Great lives, awesome in team match for Eng manager in SoCal. And after HM call, they refer me to their director. What does that mean? It means they like you. They would not refer you to the director if they didn't like you. So with a director, great excitement, enthusiasm. Like always, I always tell the audience, I'm standing, so I have great energy. I have a little bit more bounce in my voice, or whatever you want to call it. So great energy. And then remember, at the director level, less is more. Just be a little bit more concise, button it up a little bit. Good luck. What are your thoughts on making a framework your own? Meaning making sure interviewer fatigue doesn't set in candidate after candidate, or hearing the same framework versus something new. You should always make the framework your own. Framework should be strengths-based. We want to talk about the stuff we're good at. So interviewers are not going to be fatigued by frameworks. So few people in the interview process use frameworks, and they really shouldn't hear it as a framework. The tone coming into the framework should be so casual. A few items we should probably chat through, a few concepts we might want to discuss. In order to solve, let's focus in on a few areas so they're not even really hearing it or seeing it as a framework, and the vast majority of interviewers are not even going to know what a framework is. They're not going to recognize it. They're not going to know. No, that would be in the high 90%, like 97, 98, 99% of people aren't going to know what an interview framework is. Completed successfully all interviews, GCA. Okay, and recruiter told me feedback is amazing. So she sent your case to hiring committee, chances to get the job. I know they're looking for more than one person for this role. Okay, so maybe they're having a problem. Yeah, I mean, if they told you that they told the feedback is amazing, then let's increase the likelihood. They don't stand to gain or benefit anything from giving you really positive feedback and then having it take that negative path. So there's a strong likelihood that you will have success. I can't guarantee it, but it sounds good. And obviously, if they're hiring multiple people for the role, that gives you an even better opportunity. Good luck. Come back and let us know what happens. Thanks for all the content. It was extremely helpful. May I confirm if hiring committee approval happens before the offer negotiation? Most of the time. Most of the time. I've seen occasionally recruiters trying to get in front of the negotiation before this, meaning like maybe you're at the team match stage, but it's uncommon. But I've had it happen a couple times recently. But if I'm a recruiter, I'm not going to put in all that work on the offer if I don't have the other pieces of the puzzle. It's just not a good use of their time. But I have seen it happen, and I've seen it happen a couple times recently. Does the process go from hiring committee, review and approve, receive official offer, negotiate, receive updated offer? You should not be getting an offer letter until you've verbally committed. That's a waste of everybody's time. Some recruiters do that. They don't know how to manage their time when they do that, candidly. So you should be getting everything verbally approved, and then you'll get the offer. But yeah, hiring committee, review and approve, then you discuss the numbers, and then finally you'll get an updated offer letter when you get to the end. Now, of course, it could be hiring committee, then team match. That's also possible. Or it could be no hiring committee, just getting VP approval. So there's all sorts of possibilities. Hi, Jeff. Final steps for CE position. You asked initially on your level, and they said it depends on how I do. I haven't followed up as I don't want to discuss salary, and you want to go as late as possible. And you're going to pick between two teams soon. Do you think it's a good time to press the level question or not yet? worried about relocating unless the level is high enough. Yeah, I think it's fine to ask your recruiter, hey, you're talking with teams. These teams have levels that they want to hire for. Can you tell me at this point in the team match stage what level I'm being considered for? That's it. That's all we want to introduce. We're still not talking about salary yet, but it's a great question to ask. During offer call, should I talk about total comp or break it down? Total comp. So you anchor on the total comp number, base, bonus, equity, sign on, whatever you want that year one number to be, or if it's a different company that's going to look at a 4-year average, whatever you want that 4-year average to be. But if they ask, they say, can you give me a breakdown of those numbers? Totally. Give them a breakdown. Remember, do not anchor with specific numbers. Like we're not going to anchor with like 200K or 300K. We got to work out the formula to get to that unique number so that we're showing we put some thought into it. Practiceinterviews.com, free resources. I have an offer template. Use that offer template to help get you to that anchor point. What are the chances of getting an offer revoked if you ask for a higher band of comp? Is comp affected because of the current market, especially at Google? Current market conditions are not affecting comp at all, as much as I've seen, and I see a lot of it, so I haven't seen that at all. Now, you really have to understand anchoring and negotiation based on company. I give a lot of feedback and information on negotiation. Some smaller companies, I've even seen some public companies react really, really poorly to the high anchor, almost to the point of revoking the offer. So know who you're dealing with. With the Googles or Amazons or Metas or Apples of the world, you can go baller on the anchor. As long as you're gracious and kind, they're not going to revoke the offer. Other companies, maybe not so much. So just really know the company. But at Google, I haven't seen any lower numbers. And you can anchor like crazy as long as you're gracious and kind. Thanks for the content. Interview with non-FANG tech company, end of March. Recruiter said everything was looking positive, but later headcount wasn't approved and still on hold. Okay, so that would make sense for a non-FANG. Reached out to the hiring manager via LinkedIn. He confirmed the same, and headcount is the target to be approved before end of Q2. Is this common? These days, I like the role, the company, the team. And you don't want to take another offer elsewhere. You want to see how it plays out. Yes. Okay. So, Harry, like you're doing everything right? Just patience is going to be a virtue here. I would say check in maybe mid-June again, and just say you're still excited and engaged if you like the team and everything else. This is really common for these smaller companies. It's just been a little bit tough for them based on current economic conditions. Yes, I need to set a plan I want to do more live. I want to do more engagement and interaction as long as we all feel it's healthy and safe to do so. And so, yeah, I could maybe do something that's more in the middle of OC in San Diego, maybe like a Carlsbad or something that's a good place for people who want to come down. I'm also thinking about doing LA. So I'm thinking about doing 5 or 6 live pop-ups. They're probably all going to be free. And it's just going to be about engagement. I haven't really decided yet. So continue to push me on that one as much as you show up, because it's a good reminder that I need to do these. I didn't end up doing the one in Boston. I got really sick, and I just didn't want to get anybody sick while I was there. On your second team matching with the same team for an ABP, okay, good. How much further do you think I have? The 2021 salary bracket was a little low. Do you think you can negotiate? Yeah, Amanda, the comp has come up. For ABPs, for Google, they really have adjusted for inflation. So we should see, I'm seeing about an 8% increase, so right around that inflation number in terms of the offers this year to last year, maybe even up to maybe 10%. So it's been really good. With the ABP process, we know that could be a beast. Tina, who showed up here a million times, it took her 11 months. It's taking up to a year on the ABP team match. But if you're meeting with the team again, it means they like you. Really push on this. Do everything you can to make sure you land this one, because these get really tough at the team match stage. Customer engineer, ML. I'll go L5. I don't like doing 2 levels. So if anybody wants comp information going 2 levels, multiple locations, it will slow down. It will slow down the chat quite a bit. But you're definitely looking into, for CE. Well, we'll go L4, like into the mid ones, year one. These roles are going to pay pretty well. The equity piece is really the piece you're going to want to push up. Because CEs get that 42.86 bonus, the equity is not going to be quite as high because you're going to have a higher cash portion. But just to make sure that you're really, really pushing that equity as much as you can, the initial number is going to be really low. Does Google usually ask for references from your previous company? You should be supplying references in your initial application. They will not contact those references till the end, if at all. Usually they're only contacting them at the higher levels, but they will ask for references, and that should be filled out in the early stages. You are welcome. Thanks for being here. Just want to follow up. Yes, it was for a referral. It seems like they're checking some of my background and building a case to hire me. Awesome. Good news. Sri Lankan, but in Dubai, and you want to apply for a job related to digital marketing and graphic designer, which HR department I need to contact, or which hiring campaign, please and how? Well, if you don't know anybody internally to refer you, you're going to have to apply online. That's how you'll do it. So if you recognize roles in the Dubai market, which is definitely one of the bigger growing markets for Google, you're going to have to apply if you don't have any other way in. Now, you can always network in, but that's a much longer approach. Had your team match with Google for a recruiter role in GA? Our recruiter emailed today, said HM wants to move forward. Recruiter said that she needed one final approval step and will contact me next week. What does this mean? Probably just going through the end of the offer process and approval. So it's all good. I know it brings about some anxiety to have to wait, but bring in that good patience. It sounds like you're in a really good place, and now you're going to want to start to think about that anchor and anchoring high. How long after being submitted to HC does this decision take for L4 SWE interview? Also, is it a good sign if it was sent to HC before T-match? Yep, typically that's a good sign. It means that it was a strong enough packet that it didn't really need a statement of support. So yes, that is a good sign. How long does it take? Usually once you get into the HC stage, it should be through HC in a week or two. I've just seen a little bit of a slow up this year. Ask your recruiter though. Okay. If I sign the offer today and I join in 2 months, what are the chances of getting an offer revoked? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing offers getting revoked, but unfortunately, I just can't predict that item. I want to give you the warm and fuzzies and tell you everything's going to be okay, but if I could predict all the economic conditions and all the other stuff, I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I think it's a smaller likelihood, but it will depend on the company, location, etc. Just had a couple of additional rounds as part of an HM appeal after HC reject L3. And they went very well. What are the chances for an offer? Would there be scope for negotiation? There's always scope for negotiation. So remember, like the comp team isn't looking at how you did in the interviews and how you got there. When you get to them, they're looking at 3 things: level, location, and role. That's it. They're removed. So somebody could come in and absolutely crush it. They could kill the interviews, and then somebody could just scrape by, have to redo interviews, etc. And comp's going to see those people in the same way. Now, of course, there can be other push points. You're like a really unique hire, etc., where you can drive comp up. But typically, for the normal process, comp isn't going to have any insight into that. Okay, so again, if anybody wants help on the negotiation stuff, which I candidly don't love doing, that's why I created that video, which you can check out, which shows you how to use levels.fii to do this kind of stuff. I really like one location, one level, because I just don't want to spend the time doing it for very niche down, narrow down roles. But if we're talking about ops manager, hardware, L4, you're probably looking at low to mid 2s And then for L5, high 2s, maybe up to 3 in year 1 if you can get a sign-on. Our one-page resumes, the status quo. You have over 10 years of experience in a wide range of areas. The one-page thing, I really struggle with this item. One-page resumes are like 1984, okay? We all look at resumes in a digital world, so we scroll up and down. We don't even notice pages. 2 pages, okay? 2 pages is fine. This one page thing, if I like what I'm seeing, I'll go on to the second page because I'm not noticing a difference. When we used to in 1980s or 90s have to flip the page, then it became a burden. We don't have to flip the page anymore. This one page thing, even though you'll still see a million people recommending it, it's not the most important thing. What's the most important? A great bulleted summary that aligns with the responsibilities of the role and that the rest is clean and you don't try and bring in some very unique resume where people are looking for the information. It's got to be boring and straightforward with a great summary for anybody who's going into a non-creative role, and that's like 95% of resumes. Always around the 30s. I'm going to prompt my services super, super quick. If you're here today, we have a $100 discount on the course. If you type in COW, C-O-W in caps, you get $100 off the course until 11:59 Pacific time today. We do practice interviews. We do negotiation coaching, all at practiceinterviews.com. And we have a ton of other free resources. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, lives every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. I think I'm going to start going earlier soon. And then new content every other Tuesday. Okay, you failed 3 interviews of Google account strategist, account manager role. You have 1 year of sales experience. The later 2 interviews, I did a good job, as the recruiter said, yet they want more senior. Not sure what to do. Well, if you have 1 year of sales experience, you should be going more after an account strategist role. I don't know your whole background, so I can't say for sure, but that's my recommendation. And you'll probably have a chance to do that again soon. Just stay in touch with the recruiter. One of my interviewers didn't submit feedback for 10 days. It's the only feedback where it's slightly negative. They're moving to HC. Would the timeline taken by the interviewer have any weightage? No, and that recruiter's job is to get on the interviewer. And then if that interviewer doesn't respond or do their job, that recruiter's job is to bring in their manager. And then if that manager doesn't do anything, that recruiter's job is to bring in the director, the VP. I think some people have classically seen the story that I brought in a VP on one interviewer who classically just refused to get in feedback, and their manager refused to hold them accountable. And I made them feel that pain every single time with the VP. The VP would be CC'd in every single time. And that's really a granular item that the VP does not want to be included on at all. So the recruiter should be getting these interviewers in trouble. It's just totally unacceptable. What is the Google split? In July, I can't remember the exact date. I want to say it's early July. I know it's like right after. I want to say July 6th, but I could be making that up. It's a 21 split. So what that means is if you have 1 share of Google stock, let's say it's $2,000, you'll get 20 shares that will now all be worth $100 each. Why is the split good? Because it opens it up to the marketplace for investors who cannot invest $2,000 a share. And typically the psychology of that has played really, really well for these big companies. If you look at the Tesla splits, the Apple splits, the previous Google split, and Amazon hasn't split in forever. So that Amazon split, I think, will be really good too. And I can tell you personally, I've invested in those splits. I think they're gonna go well. I hope they do. If doing stock for sign-on, how much is reasonable to ask for equity? 25K sign-on, 50K in equity. Nope, that's not reasonable because that's double. Even though they're hedging their bets over time, they're going to do the calculation. You actually don't get to pick. Sometimes it's apples for apples. It's 25K sign-on back into 25K equity. Sometimes it ends up being 30K or 35K, but usually you're not getting to make that decision because you've totally maxed out the offer. And so they need to see the calculation and what they can do by the time you're getting sign on back into equity. Remember, that is our last and final ask. Good luck. I'm in negotiation process with Google. Is it normal that my total comp was increased by only 3% after negotiation? Offer was pretty good. 3% is pretty weak. Yeah. Typically, I don't know like the average percentage, but the first negotiation, I'm usually driving it up by about 15% after 15 to 20% after the first negotiation, and then a couple more negotiations, we're trying to get it up about 30%-ish, 25 to 30%. So it seems low. So I would say just push back one more time. I just want to prompt that I know I am behind, and I can see there are quite a few questions. So we're probably going to run about 20 to 25 minutes behind. So just hang in there with me. I will start to pick up the pace once we hit that hour time frame, and trying to go as fast as I can, but happy to answer all the questions. Okay, so we just saw that one. Negotiating for an L4 suite with Google as a remote role in Chicago. You have another offer from Amazon, but we're down leveled. Is it wise to use this other offer as leverage? I would not be leveraging. Hold off on, okay, this is a great question. We need to talk about this. Let's hold off on leveraging these other offers until we know like what the initial offer is going to be. Like, unless you know the offer is really high, but sometimes we leverage this other offer and they're like, yeah, that's a garbage offer, and it ends up hurting us. So only leverage that other offer when we know it's going to help us. And sometimes that means we just need to get into the negotiation stage with the other company and see how those numbers land before we introduce the competing. When setting the starting date from your perspective of RSU vesting and other factors, you also want to try starting as soon as possible. June 27th sounds wonderful. Yeah, I think get started as soon as you can, as long as you maybe get a short break or something to have like a little bit of downtime, get a little bit of mindset shift, or not mindset shift, mindset chill. I don't know, I'm not sure the exact word, but just time to kind of chill out a little bit. Have an interview for a PgM, first round with HM. Recruiter said interview will include GCA, GNL, RRK, and everything. Any tips for prep? Also, anyone up for mock prep? Mock prep, go right to the Slack group, practiceinterviews.com. Sign up for the Slack group. See if anybody wants to do practice interview with you. Obviously, I can do it as well. These initial HM interviews are a total wild card. So you just got to bring in your strong program management skills, strong domain skills, and be ready for anything. 20 years of experience in sales. Which band I should fall in at GCP? 20 years of experience in sales, like 20 years of experience, you should be at a 6 at a minimum. That's all I can tell you. I don't have any other data. Okay, Mighty Shenanigans. Received your verbal offer from G with a total comp about a week ago, but still haven't received your written offer. Well, you should be negotiating that offer. So if you negotiated, you verbally went back and forth and you got to that final stage, then you should just reach out and say, hey, I haven't gotten the offer letter yet. It's probably just a mistake. Now, if you haven't really negotiated, you shouldn't be waiting on an offer letter until you verbally committed to the numbers. Thanks for your videos, super helpful. Recruiter got back with really positive feedback for all rounds, but says we've already hired and we're looking to see if we can give you an offer. Yeah, probably means that maybe this could be one of the cases where they had more headcount, you were in the process and they lost some headcount. So nothing you can really do about it, but just stay engaged, stay in contact. That's all you can do. Thanks for all you do. You'd like to know what to anchor L5 TPM Mountain View, 15 years of experience. I'm anchoring typically, now this is really up to you. L5 TPMs in the Bay, you can be anchoring into the 4s. It's really up to you. You could anchor in the very, very high 3s, like 395, 396, 397. But just based on what I'm seeing from the offers, I don't think it's a bad idea to anchor into the 4s. Don't go into the 430s or 440s, low 420s, 417, 418, something like that. Well, it's not listed directly as an offering. Do you provide resume review services? If not, do you have a recommendation? Yeah, so I used to offer it as a standalone service. I'll probably build it back in, but I want you to go to practiceinterviews.com, go to the free resources, download the resume template, read the article connected to it, watch my videos. I do not believe that people need resume help. I think everybody can do it on their own, but I will and have done sessions where we'll do the resume. Just book a practice interview if you want to do it, but take those other steps first. You might find that you can do it on your own. Applied for a data analyst role for a niche Google group, security and resiliency. Was told 2 weeks ago for a decision, followed up with a recruiter, follow up again. Yeah, I know it's a bummer, but just follow up again, stay really, really positive, gracious, and kind. Being contacted to transition from head of recruiting to an ops role, what are the key things? Well, ops can be, for ops, you want to focus in on a couple of items. You definitely want to get into the weeds and be tactical from an operations perspective, and then you want to be heavily, heavily collaborative. But if you're going from recruiting to ops, lots of similarities, and I can see why you could pivot that way. Recently got a senior TPM offer from Amazon. Your videos helped me a lot. Amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know. Wish you the best of luck. Obviously, you landed at a great company, so yeah, good luck. Thanks for letting us know. Hey Jeff, already posted on Slack, but got a L4 CE offer and starting to negotiate for the process. Process took 4 weeks. How much less? Yeah, Boston's not going to be a huge downtick. Maybe 7%, 8%. Boston's one of the best paying markets in the country. It's just a little bit of a downtick from like a Bay or New York, but Boston definitely falls in that second tier of like the LAs, Boston's, Seattle's, maybe DC. DC's maybe like a little bit lower, but it's definitely the second tier, so it's right there. That's my hometown too, so good spot. Hey Matt, thanks for being here. What are you hearing about the new process? Did a phone screen, passed, now team match, identified a role, and now headed to onsite. How soon will you get feedback after the onsite? Depends. But you're already off to a good start, right? Good phone interview, got the right team, but how long the whole process takes is a complete unknown. Just be patient and take control on the follow-up side of things. Hi, I had 9 interviews with a company. I was one of 2 finalists and they said it's a no-go. It's not a no, but not right now. How would you recommend I nurture this relationship without seeming desperate? So much is asking about the cadence. How often can I check in? I know it's a no right now. Can I check in with you once a month? Just to remind you that I'm out there. Can I check in once every 2 months, 3 months? Build that cadence with your point of contact. That's going to be the most important item. Thank you for all the amazing videos. Do you know how long it takes for a recruiter to come back with a result? Follow up. If it's been last week, again, 5 business days is the default mode. Pro tip, identifying frameworks and applying on your current job consistently helps you give very good answers to behavioral and open-ended questions, and your performance in the job goes up. Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, when you think about an interview framework, there is some duality there, right? So the framework keeps you very organized on the open-ended side for hypothetical questions, but then we say, okay, well, what are our key strengths? What are we using in our frameworks that we can bring back into our behavioral answers? And we're focusing in on those in our actions. So there's a lot of duality there. And then the idea and concept of presenting concepts to focus in on in general communication and a conversation can also be really valuable. I am not an interview or negotiation coach. I'm a communications coach. I teach communication skills. That's really what I teach, and I think there's a lot of these basic tips and tricks that apply across the board. So thank you for that comment. Currently in a team match stage for a CE role. So far, it's been going slow. Had one HM interview and they went with another candidate. So there's a couple different default processes that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of recruiters now saying, hey, you have 4 weeks in the team match stage and then boom, you're done. It's not happening for every group. It's not happening for every candidate. So I think it is a little bit unique to the candidates. I think if the feedback's a little bit mixed, but strong enough to push you to the team match, you're more likely going to be put in that 4-week band. If it's a little bit stronger, they think there's more likelihood they might not cap you at 4 weeks. But it is slow. Sometimes it can take months. Sometimes it can never happen. So just stay patient and stay in touch with your recruiter. Thanks for all the content. Had 3 interviews for an APMM role and got positive feedback. Then you were asked to submit a written assessment. Haven't heard back for 3 days now. How long does feedback stage take? How does it work? Can't find much online about this phase. How close is it being? Am I being to done? At Google, by the way. Okay. For the written assessment, if you haven't heard back in a few days, just check in, say, super excited to fill out that written assessment, excited about it, which maybe it's not that exciting. So just follow up today. I think that's fine. And then just remember with the written assessment, my best piece of advice is do more than your competitors. Really spend the time, dig in, make it painful, because that written assessment counts, okay? Good luck. Hi, Jeff. I've been selected for the final rounds of interviews for a GCS role. Since then, it's been a month. Recruiter is constantly in touch, but doesn't have any info. No, this is actually, I mean, it's not great news, but it's good news that you have a proactive and engaged recruiter. I love that. So you're fortunate, as many people in this audience today could tell you. You are very, very fortunate. So stay in it, and let's, just stay in it, stay in touch with your recruiter, and if they're responsive, that's great. Barbie, okay, we need to really side note, we need to talk. So let's email me and let's get a meeting set up in the next couple weeks. Would you consider Salesforce as part of Google, Amazon, Meta on anchoring high on compensation? You're in the final interviews. So here's what I'll tell you about Salesforce. You can anchor high. They can't compete compensation-wise with those other companies. Usually when they're a part of my mix, they're almost always the lowest. Now, it's not super low. Like, let's call it what it is. There's still great offers when you compare it to the rest of the world, but they're low compared to these other companies. Can you anchor high? Yes. You're going to get a little bit more pushback from Salesforce to say, look, we're not going to go that high. Still doesn't mean that you don't want to anchor and negotiate, because they will negotiate with you. Be a little more careful with Salesforce on the anchor, okay? Hey, recruiter told me your package is going to HC either yesterday or today. So likely that you'll hear back today, or should I expect things to take a little bit longer? So this is what recruiters should be doing. They should be telling you the exact day and time you'll go to HC, and they should be calling you right after with a result. And if they're not sure, they should email you exactly when they know you're going into HC. You should know within that hour, because sometimes you'll be first in HC, so they could be calling you. So they should give you a window of time where you'll be getting a call. I'm not seeing that. Unfortunately, I just don't get it. I did that 100% of the time for all my candidates, unless they were out of town or didn't have access to something. But 100% of the time, within that hour of HC, they were getting a call from me with the result. You are welcome. Thanks for being here. Is it okay to say no to an offer after accepting multiple offers? Yeah, it's totally frowned upon, but hey, if you got a better offer, sometimes we got to do what's best for us. Just know if you accepted one offer and then ultimately you decide to accept another offer, you're going to burn a bridge. Sometimes in life, it's okay to burn a bridge. Just know that that's going to happen. Thank you, Mohammed, for being here. You're welcome. Meta contacted me for an interview, SD. I thought they had a hiring freeze. So exactly. They don't have a hiring freeze across the board. It's bad verbiage, right? It's a little bit of a misnomer. Like, it's actually not the case. They're not freezing all their hiring. Go to their jobs board. You'll find thousands of openings. So they're reaching out because they like you and you fit the criteria of somebody they want to hire now. And all these big companies. Remember, attrition, especially attrition of software engineers, software developers, like the attrition rate of these companies is really, really high. Usually a younger, more junior level engineers, right? You're going to hire more L3, L4s than any other role. The attrition rates are crazy, even at these big companies. Lots of times That's a 20-30% churn year over year, or whatever it's going to be. It's a big churn. So there isn't truly a hiring freeze, and that's why I wanted to throw this out there, so that we could talk about it a little bit today. And good luck. Made 3HC and team selected for L5 TPM. Recruiter said comp team is working on the offer Monday. It really varies. You should hear back today. Worst case tomorrow. Yeah, so just be ready to counter, come back high. If you haven't anchored yet, just say it's a little below thank you so much. It's a little below expectations. I'd like to think about it and get back to you tomorrow. Let's schedule a time and then run the numbers and come back and anchor. Now, if you've already anchored, unlikely that they'll hit your anchor. So again, it's a little below expectations. I'd like to think about it and get back to you. And we always start with that thank you, gratitude, and kindness to start. And good luck. Is an account strategist better than an administrative business partner? Not sure about the career path will be. It seems easier to change path. Not sure if an ABP is a good shortcut to an AM. Okay, so one is not better than the other. They're different. An ABP will require more experience than an account strategist. And so here's the tier with account strategist. Account strategist, account manager, account executive. That's the tier. So that's its own path, right? So you need to think about that in that path, and you go up that chain because each level becomes a little bit more strategic. Now, ABPs are going to be much more focused in on partnership, organization, prioritization, etc. So they're very different roles. One's external client facing and one's internal client facing. But the ABP role absolutely requires more experience than an account strategist role. TAM position, Austin or SF. 13 years of experience, what level? Okay, so again, I'm just going to continue to prompt. I'm not going to provide comp for two different markets. It's not a good use of our time. And I apologize for that, but you can see I have kind of an adverse reaction to lots of different comp and throwing comp out there. I do think 13 years of experience should be about an L5, maybe an L6. What I can tell you is that TAMs don't pay as good as they should. So it's just a little bit lower paying compared to some other technical roles. Do you have any advice for a metro network deployment engineer? Wow. Well, I really want you to focus in on the networking component and then how you use your collaborative skills. I do actually coach some network engineers, but this is a really specific role. Get really into the job description, really understand the responsibilities and the requirements, and then just have some of that foundational network engineering knowledge. I know that's super high level, but I hope it helps. You're in the negotiation process and you were hoping to negotiate their initial offer with an offer you had received from another company. They're asking to see the offer letter, but you signed an NDA. Look, okay, so I'm not a lawyer, right? So let's put that disclaimer out there. When these companies tell you not to share the offers, I say share it. Who's going to stop you? Who's ever going to find out? This NDA with the offer details, they've given you the offer. That's your information. Yeah, I don't think that NDA would ever stand up, and I don't think they're ever going to find out. And I recommend that you share. I'm not a lawyer. We'll cap that at that, but I always recommend to share. If you get the offer letter, it's going to help you negotiate it. Share it. Jeff is rocking it. What anchor do you recommend for an engagement manager? So L6, L7. So again, we're 2 levels, and SoCal is different, right? So you're talking about 3 different markets. Typically LA, Irvine, and San Diego, or Orange County, but we're usually putting it in that Irvine market. So it's 3 different ones. Engagement manager, L6, L7. You got to really be pushing into the mid 3s up to 400K is what I would push for. Thanks for all your videos. Your 5+ years as a data engineer in investment banking. You want to switch to a customer engineer, sales, and the tech. How do you adapt your CV to prepare for the interview? Well, Think about the bulleted summary. Look at the responsibilities of a CE. What are those responsibilities that you have? And of those responsibilities that you have, go ahead and put those in the bulleted summary so that they can see skill alignment. That's going to be the best piece of advice I have on your CV. And as we mentioned earlier, keep it at 2 pages or less. Team matching, new grad TPM role at Google, but it's been almost a month in the team match phase and you haven't really talked with any manager yet. Should you worry? Well, the team match stage is always tricky. So just make sure that if you haven't recently, follow up with your recruiter and check in with them. But at this stage, you should be getting opportunities because it's new grad. They should be chatting with you and seeing if you're a good fit. So definitely follow up and stay in touch with your recruiter. And good luck. You think it's worth foregoing a bit of negotiation in favor of starting ASAP given market conditions? Every day that passes makes me nervous. Okay, this is a really good conversation. This has come up multiple times. It's an interesting conversation. I mean, I typically say in the negotiation process that patience is a virtue, and I never push my clients to push the process at all. I make it really slow to make sure we're doing everything right. It's a great data point. If you feel uncomfortable, I don't want to tell you to do something and then all of a sudden something negative happens. But typically in negotiations, rushing means you leave money on the table. And I don't want you to do that either. So you can always ask the question like, hey, we got to go through a little bit of this negotiation, but am I putting anything at risk? Are you seeing any positions go away? You can always ask your point of contact that. But yeah, I don't want to give you advice that creates fear or creates a negative situation, but I like patience in the negotiation process. I think it really helps get better offers. Okay, we answered that question. No, just because giving a discount on the coaching, that's trading my time. So I do not discount my practice interviews, and I know that that's not ideal for the community, especially country to country. It's not ideal, but that's why I do offer a discount on the course, because I did put hundreds of hours into that course, but at this point I don't have to trade time for money. And so if you want the course, the discount code is COW and CAP COW, and it will be $100 off up till 11:59 p.m. Pacific time today. Does it matter when you join as an upcoming split at G? If you join before the split, will that benefit more? No, because it's a cash component, right? So, but the goal is let's get as much equity as we can, because what I think is that the trend over the next year or two is you'll see these shares go up. So joining before or after now, you might see a big jump up right after the split. So it's just something to consider. But based on current market conditions, I don't think there's going to be a huge jump, but I think you could see the shares double over the next year, maybe, just because, again, the entry point is so much lower. If I knew for sure, I would be putting every single penny I had into it. And so I have put some money into it because I believe in it, but I don't think it's going to matter a ton. I just want to prompt, I know I'm still about 25 minutes behind, so I'm going to start to pick up the pace just a little bit. Do you have any advice for us in the Asperger's autism spectrum? Is it a good idea to disclose? Yes, it is. They can give you the benefit, and some of these companies will give you the benefit of more time, longer interviews, etc. I would disclose, but it's a personal decision. Interview with Google for a contract account executive position and got a request for a second interview. Unfortunately, you got sick over the weekend and contacted your recruiter by email and voicemail. No word yet. We get sick. I would just follow up again and let them know your interest level. It's surprising that they haven't gotten back to you yet. What if the HR is not responding? Is it hard to get a call with HR on and how to compete the offer stage and more securely and efficiently? Jen, you just gotta stay patient, right? Going back and forth brings too much risk. It actually doesn't. When you're negotiating, going back and forth typically will yield better results for you. when you get to the offer stage, your recruiter should be pretty on top of it. They have a vested interest in getting you hired. They get you hired, that's just checking the box on a number that they need to hit. So good luck. Keep us posted. Hey Jeff, saw other saying recruiters tell them about positive, negative feedback, but mine said she can't say anything. HM stage and there are other candidates. Is this normal? It's normal to not say anything. Yeah. They can share basically non-specific items. Now, if you're missing a minimum qualification, legally, they're able to tell you, hey, like this job required Python coding and you can't code in Python. Like I used to tell my engineers that, like you didn't pass the coding portion, that's a minimum qualification. But how much recruiters say, it varies recruiter to recruiter. Yeah, absolutely. Good luck on the EM position. I think I remember that correctly. Accepted an offer at Google and starting next month. I like another role which I'm more interested in. I have already applied for it. Do you think I should reach out to my recruiter and ask if they can consider me for another role? Oh, I wouldn't do this. You've already accepted a job. That looks so poorly. If I found out you were going through these steps as the hiring manager, this is a really slippery slope. You need to be very, very careful. You've already accepted the offer. You've already made a commitment. You could be closing the door on the organization completely. Tread lightly. This is not a good path and not a recommended path. Okay, and I'm being kind of stern because I just want to do what's best for you. I would not take this path. I would let it go. I would join the company, and in the next year and a half, if you want to switch teams. But trying to do this now, you could be burning a bridge at the organization that you've already accepted an offer at. Be careful. All right, so we're right at the hour mark. So I'm starting to catch up. I know it doesn't seem that way, but we will catch up today. So at the hour mark, practiceinterviews.com. We have negotiation services. We have one-on-one practice interviews. The course, COW, C-O-W in caps, will be $100 off to $11.59 Pacific time today. The course has gotten amazing feedback. It's robust. It's a beast. But if you get into the weeds and you have a little bit of time, it's definitely worth it. And then there are tons of other free resources. Our Slack channel, free resources on the page. Obviously, all the YouTube information. If you like what we're doing, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. How rigorous is SRE SE hiring process? It's rigorous. It's tough, SRE. But the good thing is, if you're interested, SRE is site reliability engineering. Not everybody's interested in SRE. So you're kind of in a niche down space where there's not as much interest. So that does give you an advantage, but it's still pretty robust. Is it normal for recruiters to suggest very lowball numbers when you give your expectations? You anchored around 400 for an L5, and they said that's way out of the band. Well, it would depend on the L5 role and what market. And remember, we never want to anchor on round numbers. Anchoring at 300 or 400 or 500 doesn't show a lot of effort. So you want to anchor, if we're ever going to anchor at 400 or we think that's about our number, anchor at 396, 352. Now you'd have to get to that number. You'd have to run the base, the bonus, and the equity and see how it plays out. But think about, I like to think about thresholds. So if they're going to offer you something in the twos and we use the number 4, even if it's 400, there's a psychology behind that. Why do you think my services go at the high end with a 97? It's intentional, right? Because going to that next threshold makes it seem more expensive. Same thing with anchoring, right? So when we anchor, if we want about 400K, anchor in the high 390s. There's a psychology behind that. But typically they'll come in low ball and then you're going to have to do a little bit of back and forth. But L5 at 400, it would really depend on the location and role to see if that's really out of whack. So you can come back and let us know. And he told me baseline salary, RSUs. Oh, sorry. For a SWE, what's the location? 240 would be very, very low. That's an L3 in the Bay, but I don't know where you're located. So, and let's just confirm that this is Google or what company it is. Finished on site a week ago, have not heard back. check in today. Thank you for all the info on not using down-leveled offer. Can you help me with an anchor for SWE, Chicago, remote, L4? Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get you in the, I mean, you should be anchoring. I would anchor into the threes for sure. That offer might go into the high twos, but I would be anchoring in the threes. Anything into the threes would be good, but 319, 327, something like that. Okay, we answered that. Mighty Shenanigans, this is my favorite, probably my favorite name. Some negotiations and you verbally accepted the offer. Recruiter tells me she just needs system approval. Follow up. Just say, hey, like, just waiting on the offer. You don't have to say you're nervous, but just say, I'm excited to sign the offer and get in that background check stage so I can resign at my company. So maybe you make the resignation piece part of the script that you use. So your recommendation for an L5 TPM anchor in the Bay Area at 400K. You're remote in Kansas City. What kind of reduction should you be looking at? 15 to 20% probably, something like that. And again, remember, no round numbers, okay? You reached out to an interview at G. It's an extremely fast interview process and you're in the final rounds for an AE position. Okay, awesome, Mike. I wanted to know, do interviews understand we can be a little nervous and take that into account given the fast process? You're also in the first round as an account strategist role next month. Will they take my scores from the AE role? Those are very different roles, Mike. The AE role is 2 tiers above an account strategist role. So I would drop the account strategist interviews because that's a little weird that they would do that. Do interviewers take anything that you do into account? Don't count them, right? They come in sometimes with ego, sometimes they don't care. So we just got to be able to adapt and adjust to them. But if you were interviewing for like an AE and AM role, that would make more sense. AE is kind of here and account strategist tends to be more junior, tends to be. There's some flexibility there. And good luck. Let us know how it goes. Interview for Google for a policy role. Didn't go well. Underprepared for the GCA questions. I didn't hear back from them yet, but they just re-advertised the role. So should you apply again? Nope. Should wait to hear back. Reapplying for the same role and we didn't get the role and we just interviewed for it, they're not going to give you another chance. It just won't happen. So we got to play out the process and then see how we actually did and see when we can get after it again. Thanks for all the things you do. I scheduled for an RRK interview coming next week. Any guidance for a cloud migration consultant? Yeah. I want you to, they're going to tell you you don't need to know GCP. You need to know. Your competitors know it. They're learning it. So if you're not familiar with GCP, learn it. I love any course that you can take on it. I love GCP testimonials page. I think those case studies are really valuable, especially for somebody going in as into a cloud consulting role. Heavily collaborative, and remember, not all the work you do is client facing. You do a lot of internal facing work too. In these client facing roles, the internal stuff is often forgotten. Don't forget that piece. Currently negotiation phase for CE role, Bay Area. 9 years of experience. A recruiter has stated that the interview feedback has been amazing. Well, we don't know the level, but CEs, if it's 9 years, hopefully an L5, and you're definitely getting into the mid threes. Currently just have my application sent over to HC. With the market dipping a bit, should you be concerned? What % of individuals who make it to this step forward? Yeah, so percentage of individuals, it's a smaller % of people overall for casting a wide net that make it to this stage. But I'm not worried about the market dipping for you. It seems like you've already done well in the interviews, and good luck. Thanks for sharing your interview tips. Just finished 3 interviews for GCP field sales rep, and I was curious, when should you expect to hear back? If you haven't heard back for 5 business days, follow up. What's the difference between HC and the hiring manager? HC is hiring committee. It's a group of potential peers who have not interviewed you but are in a like or similar role. The hiring manager is the hiring manager. They're the one who you will report to. Those are the major differences. Hiring committee determines sometimes in some for some roles, whether you move forward to offer stage. What's a transformational tech lead position at GCP? 6 or 7. Can't tell you. Probably a 6 would be my guess. Does HC decide between a short list of candidates or a single position, or is it determined by the HM? HC between a short list of candidates. So you're not being, well, you're being compared holistically to everybody else just from general overall knowledge. But really what they're doing is they're comparing you against yourself, okay? And the hiring manager prior to the candidate being sent to HC should be writing a statement of support on your behalf for why they want to hire you. I hope that helps. Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on the role and whether the role has multiple openings. Then you could be compared against somebody else, but usually you're just compared against yourself. Is a 15-minute call for a recruiter for the follow-up from a technical phone call a bad sign or good sign? It's an unknown because everybody has different communication styles. They should be indicating positivity in their communications, but we all know that doesn't always happen. So just wait for the call and good luck. You're contacted for a cloud migration consultant role, but the interview was rescheduled twice and eventually canceled, and you were told the hiring was put on hold. You wouldn't be, so much of this, when we talk about this communication, I mean, does it happen that recruiters lie to make it easier on them so that they can get out of the process? Of course, sure, does that happen? But there's really no benefit to that, because if you were told it was put on hold, the recruiter's going to expect to hear back from you, right? They're going to expect, they're going to check in time to time. So it's not benefiting the recruiter. I would strongly guess that this is the case, and that you just want to ask them, how often can I reach out to you? Can I check in with you once a month, once a week, every day, every quarter? You just want to keep that relationship with them, so when their role does open up, which it likely will, that there'll be an opportunity for you to revisit it. Totally varies. Depends on how motivated, lazy, etc. So they're requested to usually do it in 24 to 48 hours. That rarely happens. Sometimes they never complete it, but usually interview feedback should typically be completed in about a week. Currently in Germany, awesome. Reached out to a recruiter after a year last week, and he said, "We'll share my details internally." What does that mean? Well, he may be sharing your details to see if there's an open role or a fit, but I have absolutely no idea what he's going to do. I can't tell you for sure. Thank you so much for all the things you're doing. Scheduled for RRK interview. Okay, so just a quick note. No need to double up. I'm going in order, and I will get to all the questions. So we answered this question before. Gave your first round of RRK interview last Thursday for a program manager role with the GCP team. Can follow up today. Thank you for the amazing content and all your efforts. What's the high anchor number you would recommend for L4, TPM, G Cloud, Dublin? 7 gives a number below your current comp. But remember, okay, the 0.7 formula. So I have a video where we look at any software engineer position at these companies anywhere in the world, because it's our best data point, and we times it times 0.7. It's a really good generic number. Now TPMs, probably more of a 0.8, 0.85. TPMs get paid a little bit better. And then remember, you're probably anchoring more at that software engineer pay scale, or even maybe a little higher on the anchor. But yeah, TPMs are going to be more of a 0.8, 0.85. I hope that helps. L5, low 4s, L6, high 4s. Recruiter asked me to start thinking about salary before next interviews. Should I give them a number? No, we do not give numbers until they want to hire us. Remember, especially once we get into the process and the team likes us, recruiters do not have the ability to stop the process because you don't give them a number. Okay, they don't. Think about how mad. I'm a hiring manager, I want to hire you, and then I find out that Jane's no longer available. You stop the process because she wouldn't give a number. just as long as you're very gracious, very kind. I'd like to see the process all the way through, because when they decide they like you and want to hire you, makes it easier for us to negotiate. L5 PgM Select since January 2022, been in the team match since then. Recruiter offered to close my application. It's been a few months. What does really closing it mean? Will the recruiter still look for a team match? Thanks so much. They will not continue to look for you. It means that they're going to close out your application to potentially give others the opportunity to reach out to you, etc. Figure out the cadence. Should I follow up with you once a week, once a month, once a quarter? You want to stay in touch with them if they're willing, because that's going to be your best door to get back in when the time is right. If you got to the team match stage, they have tons of good data on you, tons of good feedback. So that is my number one recommendation. My feedback was really strong for an L5, but team matching has been super slow. Only one so far after 3 weeks. I don't want to tell you not to be concerned, because the team match stage is stressful. It creates a lot of anxiety. Stay in touch with your recruiter. That's all you can do. The rest of it's really hard to control. And you can try and find other teams that are a potential match, but that's just tougher in my experience. So just stay patient and stay in touch with them, and good luck. Being a regular visitor of your videos for the last 4 months, very excited to inform you, finally joining Google Dublin next week. Amazing. Thank you so much for letting us know. I just am dying to get to that Dublin office. So maybe somebody can let me in for that great free food, because I love the diversity of Dublin. It seems like one of the most unique global offices where people are it's just a melting pot there. It seems so cool. So if I make it to Dublin, maybe this year, somebody's letting me in for some free food. Thanks. What can I do if I feel like my Google recruiter is not doing their job well and keeping me in the loop during the team match phase and not sending me to the right hiring managers? Well, not sending you to the right hiring managers, that you can't really say that for sure, because we don't have that insight. Now, not staying in touch with you is another thing if they're not being responsive. When you get to the end, hopefully getting the offer, or if they do unfortunately close you out, remember you're going to get a feedback survey once your application is closed out 1 to 2 weeks later. Check your spam and ding them. If they need to learn better communication and organizational skills, they need to learn that lesson through the feedback. And good luck. Does Google HC look into Drive to Learn? I have 1 to 2 years of experience in cloud. I'm interviewing for a cloud infra role. Yeah, they're going to look at your background in correlation, but for a cloud infra role with your years of experience, you probably have other experience that's getting you in. Most cloud infra roles wouldn't start in L3, they'd start in an L4, but they're going to look at everything. Any guidance for Indian developers? No different than the guidance I would give anybody else. Work hard and practice a ton. Your competitors are practicing. And I actually think that technical people do a much better job of practicing than us non-tech people. They're usually practicing daily, multiple times a day. Hop onto any of these platforms and just make sure you're doing that practice work, whether it's coding, system design, or any skills you need to enhance. The more time you spend practicing with others, the better it will go. And good luck. You are welcome, Mighty Shenanigans. I am going to miss Mighty Shenanigans, that name, when you go away, when you finally get that offer letter and get all this done. Follow up on lowball. L5 Suite Seattle. On levels, it seems most offers are around 350. So to push back at 240, you have competing offers, which I hope help. Yeah. So remember, recruiters can only, again, we don't know the company. So if you want to come back and tell me the company, but usually like a Google recruiter, they can only give you their baseline offer. And sometimes that baseline offer is super low, but I would say absolutely 350 plus L5 Suite for Google in Seattle, 350 plus. Yeah, so 250 would be an initial really low ball offer, but for them to push back on 400, okay, maybe, but pushing back on like 385 to 395, probably not. They might just be trying to set the tone, but you should definitely be negotiating that offer. It's super low. Following up on your previous question, do you have any other options to request to work with other Google recruiters? Wouldn't do it. You could burn a bridge. Remember, these are internal employees that work with each other. If you try and go around them, they might just block you. Okay, so you're just going to have to work with that person. Unfortunately, just do everything you can to be gracious and kind. Continue to follow up, continue to follow up, continue to keep that positive tone. Going around them can be negative. Now, if you don't hear back for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you're in this part of the process, then you can go around them. But if they've actually followed up with you, I would not do that. Had a tech phone interview with a company. And during the interviewer told me your solution was okay. You don't need to implement another one. I ended up being rejected. Should I report? Well, yeah, I mean, if they didn't like your answer, unfortunately, like there's not much to do with that. If they told you the solution was not great and they didn't want to hear another one, it's just part of the interview process, right? So I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't think that there's really anything you can do about it, unfortunately. Yeah, so definitely not going to answer this question. We don't have a level, and it's multiple. We don't have level, and it's multiple locations. So now NYC and SF are, I guess they technically pay the same. So if you come back and give me the level, I can let you know. Didn't make it past the screening for a PM role. Can I ask the recruiter to share my profile? You can. They may not. If you didn't even pass the screening part. I don't know what screening is, though. I'm not sure how far you made it. Profiles never go away. It's an applicant tracking system at all these companies, and all these companies will keep all your information. Though I've told my recruiter I'm only open to remote and MA roles, the hiring managers I'm talking to during the team phase do not know that and reject the match because of my location. Just encourage everybody to be super open-minded on location. I know that that's so easy for me to say, and there's so many things that are from family to personal reasons or reasons why we want to stay. But I would just say, if at all possible, and you can make it work, typically we only need to go to one location for maybe a year or so before we get back to our ideal location. And I can tell you, I kind of had this scenario, but again, no kids, didn't own, so I had a lot of flexibility at the time. Thank you so much for the videos. I was able to get an initial offer for product strategy role in New York. The team wants me to join ASAP, but due to a visa complication, you won't be able to leave your current company for the next 3 or 4 months. You haven't heard back yet. Okay, really work with them. See what you can do to make it work. Sponsorship can be really tricky. So I just want to make sure you get it right, but really try and work with them and stay really, really positive about it, okay? And good luck. Okay, Q3 or Q4. Okay, stay in touch with them. If it's Q3 or Q4, check in beginning of Q3, mid Q3, just stay on top of it and try and control it as much as you can. I'm currently a non-tech PM, but I got contacted by a recruiter for an AWS SWE position. I did the online coding design assessment, but didn't pass all the test cases on coding's question 2 and 2. It's been 5 days and my recruiter didn't reply to me reaching out. How likely is it I'll make it to the next round? If you didn't actually pass all the test cases, probably not, just because they do have people who are passing them. So hopefully, if that's something you're interested in, you'll get a shot in the future, but I wouldn't anticipate, just based on competition, that you would have another chance. I can't say for sure. How long does the virtual interview process of 4 rounds generally take? I have no idea. Depends on company, depends on interviewer feedback, depends on a million different things. So I can't give you any specific timeline. Does it give a bad impression to the recruiter if we ask for a location change of our office? Well, if they like you at that stage, no. I mean, this is what I encourage, but it just depends on, like, were you interviewing with a specific hiring manager for a specific location? Like, there's a lot of different moving pieces there. Maybe you can tell me more, but if they really like you, hopefully they'll try and make it work. Thoughts on recent hiring freezes? Any rumblings for Google layoffs? Haven't heard any rumblings of layoffs at Google, and I've tried, but I'm sure there are nuanced niche down groups that are laying off, but that's almost always the case. There's almost always things happening internally where there are small layoffs, and like we just don't have the pulse, and then you'll see this article pop, and it's like all of a sudden, yeah, there is a small layoff, but I haven't heard of anything, and I've been like poking my internal people. Customer Eng EDU role, yeah, Customer Eng. You're gonna really have to focus in on your GCP knowledge. They say you don't need it, you need it. Your competitors have it. Really focus in on collaboration, how you problem solve with GCP products when it comes to scale or utilization or automation. And then how do you work with those internal stakeholders to get it all right? That's the missing piece of the puzzle for almost everybody. Google has recently ramped up hiring in Warsaw, Poland. Yeah, I get that sense. There's very little data on comp. It's a simple factor that can be applied to data from a major location. Bart, I did the video and I actually brought up Warsaw in the video I did. Go look at the negotiation formula video. It's got like a white, I can't remember the name of it, but it's got like a white chalkboard. It's from the Beautiful Mind movie. It's got a sticky note in it, I think, but check that out. I actually did it on Warsaw was one of the two markets I looked at. So you're looking at software engineer salaries, timesing it by 0.7, and that's usually your number. That's a good way to look at it. It's not going to be perfect, but check out that video for sure. It's a more recent negotiation video that I did. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Hi, Jeff. Just heard your guidance is to complete all background checks before resigning from current roles. So no conditions to your start date or new contract. So this is a real personal choice. If you want to take the safest route, don't resign until the background check is cleared. There's always potential that something funky could come up. How often does that happen? Not very often. Do you think there's any hiccup with your dates, with your education, with your criminal background or anything? Then yeah, maybe you should hold off. But for most people, I've always resigned before background check. But that was because I knew I didn't have anything that would be a flag. But it's really a personal decision. L5 PgM remote. I mean, I would anchor into the threes, but you may not make into the threes. It may be end up year one, maybe around 3, high 2s. Thanks for all the content. I come often to listen to all the positivity. Amazing. Thanks, Bart. Is the interview process for new grad suite at Google the same as an L3 suite interview? I believe, I used to hire L3 suites. I believe they're very similar, but I never saw the new grad piece. But yeah, it's going to be coding interviews and a behavioral interview. I mean, it's going to be very, very similar. You are welcome. I've gotten through hiring council, I think committee, and waiting for compensation conversation. Where would you push for L6 manager role? L6 manager of what? And what's the location? I had your onsite cloud program management. You've been asked to take an additional interview for GCA and it will be cross-functional. Yeah, wear the hat of the role. You've probably heard me say this a million times, but wear that hat of the role. That's going to be the most critical item for success. If we're trying to solve outside of wearing the hat of the role, it's going to be really difficult to have success. Then CFAS. The biggest thing about CFAS, clarify, framework, assumption, solution, follow the order. So many people are bringing assumptions before the framework. Don't do it. It will make your answer not as good. Trust me on this. I've done this thousands of times. Clarify, framework, assumption, solution. The clarifying questions and framework are going to be more high level, general. The assumptions will be very, very specific, role specific, and then solve for one framework concept at a time, but wear the hat of the role. That's my number one piece of advice. What does it mean? G recruiter tells me that you're the first and only candidate they consider for the role, and they're going to wait for results. They're going to wait for the results of my interview. I don't know what that means. They're going to wait for the results of your interview or other interviewers to compare you against. That feedback's a little bit confusing. Hi, Jeff. I have the option to choose system design or debugging. Do you have any preferences? Okay, so we're going to really post a big caveat here. I'm not technical, but if I was put into the interviews, I know I could do better on the system design. There's more flexibility to navigate into a space that's a strength for me. I can clarify what we're looking at from a design perspective. I can cast the wide concepts of the design, like what are 4 or 5 focus areas, kind of like a framework. Then I can pick one area to start with, check in, and I can pick my preferred path. Debugging, not so much. But again, that is my personal preference. And I'm more of a solution design person than system design. I couldn't get really into the technical weeds. Okay, I'm just scrolling ahead here. We're catching up. We're only 10 minutes behind. So I think I'll skip the prompt on my services. I'll just throw out if you use COW, C-O-W, up until 11:59 p.m. today, you can get that course for our course for $100 off at practiceinterviews.com. I'm going to continue to answer the questions, and we'll probably end up wrapping up in about 10 minutes or so. Thanks for your answers. National treasure. I love that. National treasure. I think that's the first time I've heard that, so thank you. Completed tech. G&L, interviews for SRE. Feedback is good. Recruiter asked for my degree details and a breakup of current pay so we can create hiring packet. You shared it. I would have kept the comp details blank for right now, but you shared it, so you can still anchor high based on what you see the market paying. Cleared all round for tech ops lead 2 weeks after HR told me profile was kept on hold till they're meeting with other candidates. Does it mean HC was a hold after the first review? Yeah, so I can't answer that question because I don't know. It sounds like they like you. Maybe they want to see more people, but you have to ask your recruiter to give you more specific feedback. I know they will say no, but do companies like Meta and Twitter find you on their platform and judge you off your activity? Absolutely. Do Meta recruiters go to your Facebook and Insta? Totally. If you're doing things that are inappropriate there, or you've put inappropriate comments on Twitter or anything like that, those would get flagged naturally, but they look. Absolutely they do. Anchor L4 SWE role in MA. Thinking 350, is that too high? Believe the more appropriate band for L5, which is why that anchor may look too high. I don't think that's too high. Now remember, if we're talking about MA, specifically Massachusetts, it depends. If you're in the Boston area, absolutely. If you're out west, like Springfield, Amherst, anywhere moving out west, it's going to be less. It's cost of labor, so they're going to look at your market. So if you're not in the Boston area, it's going to go down. But yeah, L4 SWE Boston area, I would anchor in the 340s, somewhere like that. Yes, you should not tech round. You should not have you've not shared your comp expectations with them, but don't worry about it. Can't go backwards, only move forwards. So you can always anchor higher if the market data is showing higher numbers. Thanks again for the content. Had your screening and moving on to interviews. She told me the base for a CSM is 115 to 125. I deflected my expected comp. What's a good number to anchor on? CSM, Customer Sales Manager. CSM. Why am I forgetting? Customer Solutions Manager. I don't know the level. And just remember, a lot of these times, like the biggest thing to remember with now that like we see the Colorados and it sounds like California, we're going to be putting base salary requirements in there, but it's base. It's not total comp, right? So it's base, bonus, and equity. We need to think about the whole package, but I don't have enough details here right now to tell you more. Watch your videos early. They helped me moving to Google at L7 and now helping in hiring to have recruiters' point of view. Amazing, Pradeep. Awesome. Yeah, it's yes. and it gives you some perspective on the recruiting world and just hiring in general. So congrats, amazing. L7's awesome. IC6, I can't remember if this was a program manager or a product manager. I think it was a program manager. You know, you want to be making into the high threes, so you got to be anchoring in the fours, but I don't know what that D stands for. I can't remember. Big fan of all the vids. G Recruiter called and said they're putting an offer together, but they haven't been clear on level. PgM Toronto area, 5 years of experience and all 14 years of experience. Yeah, so it's probably going to be a 4, maybe a 5, but they need to give you more leveling information. Use that video. There's not a lot of information, but look at what SWEs are making. And times at times, like, go to levels.fyi, look at what SWEs are making in Toronto, times at times 0.75. That's your total comp. And then anchor more around what SWEs are making. Thank you so much for the content and helping me interview. Can you tell me how we make silence during the interview less awkward? Well, so much of our silence happens after the question, right? We take a minute to think about it. So you tell them that. You say to your interviewer, I'm going to take 1 minute to gather and collect my thoughts. The silence is awkward for you, not for them. They're checking email, weather, menus, sports score. They don't care. But just when it gets to be much over a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, they're starting to question what's going on. Interviewing for Google, SFA, London, recruiter indicated that this will be an L5. What is the base compensation? L5, SFA, low ones. Yeah, maybe it's the low ones probably. Is Google planning to hire more people in UAE, Dubai? Are they expanding into Middle East? Remember, so much of the way I see the hiring trends is well, I have internal resources that provide information, but it's client based. And over the last 6 to 9 months, I've had a lot more clients in Dubai. So, or not necessarily sitting in Dubai, but who are interviewing for roles in Dubai and located in Dubai. So just personally, I have seen an uptick for that office specifically. Positive soul. I like that. We're getting some really positive comments. I appreciate that. How long does HC take typically? It depends. Your recruiter should be telling you exactly the day and time you're going to HC and be calling you right after. Completed the first 3 levels of G Foobar recently. Do you have any insight into how this works? I assume it's a one-time in. Is there a benefit to applying through normal routes through using this? Yeah, so if anybody's not aware, the Foobar challenge is an online challenge that's been around for a long period of time. So how it works from there, I would say you have to read more online. I'm actually not as familiar. I know of its existence. I know kind of what it looks like, but I don't really know what the process is from there. Each stage that you get through, though, the likelihood of getting interviews increases, as I believe it to be. It's been a long time since I've heard Foobar, so good luck. Any chance you might be able to show more examples of good answers to Google Star GCA questions? Your videos are enormously helpful, and this would go above and beyond for us visual learners. So what I can tell you is that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of visuals in the course, you know, and I will continue to provide as many visuals as I can. I do have an overview doc that I posted in one of the videos that kind of shows the breakdown, but David, good thing for me to know that I need to have more visuals in my videos. Thank you for that. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. And if you never subscribed, consider subscribing. Thanks. Fresh Prince, great name. I have 2 interviews at Google for a digital marketing apprenticeship. What should be my main focus when preparing? By the way, love your videos. Usually for an apprenticeship job, it's going to focus more behavioral. So more example-based answers. Apprenticeships are usually for those who are more junior in your career, meaning you can bring in examples from school even a volunteer activity. Maybe you led a group. So they're going to lean behavioral, but just be ready for anything, and good luck. What's the process around getting up-leveled? I already completed your interview for L4, most likely. Do I push for an L5 evaluation, or is it too late now? When you get to the end of the process and they decide they want to hire you, you ask your recruiter, if I were to conduct 1 to 2 more interviews, would you consider me for an up-level? You'll have to ask them, and they should be able to tell you. The feedback's really strong. Typically, that's a path they can take. If it's not as strong, probably not. Any advice on speaking with 2 teams and both want to go forward? Yeah, you pick the better manager, not the better role, in my opinion. Our manager relationship is going to be more important than the company, the focus area. You pick the person you like more. You could also ask to speak with members of the team to help you gauge your decision. Those are 2 good steps. Your inputs have been valuable. Thanks for providing guidance. Waiting for 2 company final results. Good luck, and come back and let us know. Does Google ask for proof of competing offers? Should you provide the competing offer only if you know it's going to be higher? They do ask for proof. Sometimes we get around that and we say, look, I'm still negotiating with them. You don't have to take this information or do anything with it, but it's just, it would probably slow us down a little bit. That's okay, but these are the numbers I have to date. But they do like proof. It helps them drive up the numbers. But just make sure that competing offer is actually going to be more, because if it's less, it works against you. By the way, on leadership and Googliness, role-based skilled Google knowledge. Yeah, so that's why, yes, the apprenticeship will lean a little bit behavioral based on those data points. LA is just going to be a slight uptick. I've seen San Diego paying much better lately, and Irvine might be a tiny bit less, but they're all going to be very, very close. Customer success, L4, NYC. I mean, yeah, you want to push. I mean, I would be anchoring in the very high 2s and hoping for something in the mid 2s, but could be more than that. Thanks for amazing content, especially around behavioral interview. Just accepted a SWE L5 at G. Amazing. Yeah, you really got to nail that behavioral part for SWEs, so I'm really glad that helped. Congrats. Well, again, any L4, L5 Dublin offers, positions vary so greatly that it depends on the position. A SWE versus an ABP, they're just going to pay so differently. Okay. How much percentage increment in salary should you expect if you have 5 years of experience and currently? I'm really struggling to answer this question. I don't really know what any of this stuff is. So if you can be more specific, I'm happy to answer. I'm clean on background checks. Great advice. All right, Lee. Awesome. You are welcome. What if you're hired on contract through a recruiter for Google? How do you become perm? You crush it. You work, people don't want to hear this. You work harder than everybody else. Simply put, when I was hired as a contractor, I just outworked everybody. And because I outworked everybody, I hired more than everybody else. And, it was 4 months in that I had the opportunity to get into the interview process. So you've got to outwork them, and then you've got to build this great brand. Be super positive. Be willing to take on anything. Be a great listener. Talk last. Take in all the data, and then bring in your opinion. Create a really strong brand. Go to lunch. Have meetings with people on cross-functional groups. Just put it all out there. If you do all that, it will go well. And I just want to mention that luck definitely played a factor in everything too. We lost like most of our team, and it was me and one other person basically running the team. And so that helped a little bit too. Oops. What should be the expected compensation for a cloud TSC position? I don't know the location. I don't know the level. Keeping the positivity up here, feeling spoiled to have 2 questions answered by you today. Thanks for all the help. Thanks, David. Appreciate you always showing up here. Interviewing for solutions consultant PGM this week with HM. Should I be worried about technical questions? Said this is mostly a PGM role. Mostly a PGM role. I would want them to give you more data. Now you could get technical domain specific, so I would expect you to have knowledge in your own domain, but I can't say for sure. Like when they say it's mostly a PGM role, that's not enough data for me. I would push back and get more information. So a software engineer apprenticeship. So the key here is you're going to have those technical skills, coding skills, and then a little bit on the behavioral side. Got to get your behavioral answers down. Okay, that's going to be critical for success as well. Reply with the anchor in the verbal offer call or later by email. We always negotiate over the phone. Phone only. There will be no negotiations that will be done via email. Now you can always back up information. If they say, hey, can you share those numbers via email? Sure. You lose so much power when you negotiate via email. Don't do it. Never do it. Always phone. Always, always, always. I got 3+2 from an HC interview. The HM has recommended one more virtual interview, GCA, communication and leadership, and also L5 versus L. Okay. So they want to test GCA communication and leadership. So how are you putting together your answers? Are you communicating and bringing them in? So this is going to be really transitions based. How are you asking questions? How are you prompting data and information? And then remember GCA, wear the hat of the role. And good luck. Okay, so yeah, again, I'm not going to provide comp data on just random Dublin information just because I help squeeze to people who are in much less non-technical roles, and the ranges are just, they're totally different. So it's not really valuable. Now I have seen Dublin paying a little bit better. So like for an L4 TPM, be hoping that you could get into those kind of like low to mid ones. But there's a lot of variability there. Use the formula. What is a software engineer making in Dublin? Times it times like 0.8, and that will be a very good number for you at L4 or L5. PGM, JD is the same as a solutions consultant. Well, that's solutions consultants and PGMs are different roles. So that's a little strange for me, okay? I just want you to get a little bit more information. Absolutely. What should I share as achievements detailed for hiring packet? Current employer has no rewards or, yeah, don't worry too much about that. You can share any promo history, but any other rewards and recognition, don't worry too much about that. That won't be factored in very much. Okay, we're hitting the end. If any additional questions come in, I'll answer them, but let me just prompt and let's go into the close. Thank you so much for being here. We had a fantastic audience today. Practiceinterviews.com. We offer practice interviews. We offer negotiation coaching. The ROI on that is unbelievable. The course, if you use the discount code in all caps, COW, C-O-W, it'll be $100 off till 11:59 Pacific time today. And if you like what we did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, lives every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, and new content, new videos every other Tuesday. And I try to get them out by about noon Pacific time. Any guidance for total comp, principal architect, L7 Zurich? Yeah, so this is going to pay pretty well. Zurich is by far the best paying market across Europe. Really go to levels.fyi, see what software engineers are making around that level, 0.8, 0.9 times it. Architect's going to be pretty close. But imagine this would have to be into the threes, maybe around 4, but I'm not 100% positive, so use that formula. Thank you everybody so much for being here today. I'll be back next week.